It seems like it.
Yeah, well, I mean, for us it is working, but for Oak, really have any idea? It looks like it's dropping out on me, so I don't know. We'll just maybe this episode of GM Prep will be totally awful. Friends, welcome to the second episode 0, or episode actual 0, or episode -1, or episode I, if you prefer imaginary numbers. We're here to talk about several technical issues going. Have characters. I want to start by reviewing the characters. Each of you has sent me some things about backstory, and I don't feel like we need to share all of it with the audience or with each other if you don't want to. Because it can be a surprise. It can come up in play. But let me just go with some high level stuff. The thing is, I don't think I know everybody's name, but Ludemann, you are playing Quentin Alexander Polk IV, and the only reason I knew anything more than Quentin is because you named your PDF after your character, which made it very easy.
You're welcome.
You are a psychic from Leda, the cowboy planet of Texas immigrants who settled down at a Psionic Academy world. In the aftermath of the Scream, the local psionics have managed to convince the world that they are the answer. The technology is not the answer. Living a tech level 1, so basically like slightly better than Stone Age life is the key. A simple life is a happy life, and that the psychics can take care of everything, and they are the local government. You didn't want to teach psychics at the Psychic Academy. You got away from it all. You got a job on a salvager ship. Something happened. Everybody except you died. You were blamed for the accident afterwards, but with your payout and with a little bit of money from back home and maybe a little help from one of your co-creditors here, and maybe like saying, hey, if things go badly, my parents back home will pay for it. The two of you managed to wrangle up one yard ship with which you could head out, break down ships yourself, and live a life of space and adventure, hunting for ruins. You also have a lifelong companion, a capybara, Maximus. What do we know about this capybara? Does it have a name, and do we have like a fur color, or like
yeah. His name is Louis or Louis, right? It's okay. Like Louis when he's being bad, and Louis when he's being sweet, right? Like that's important.
So I think that Louis has a collar that is an inflatable spacesuit. Like in an emergency, if it detects that oxygen levels have dropped or like pressure is dropping, it foops, and like his whole body is covered in a spacesuit that also will like give him like minor jet mobility. But like any other spacesuit, it's only good for like 6 hours, and it's very expensive to replace the collar because spacesuits that do that are very rare. It's expensive to make it happen, but you always want to protect your pets and make sure that if you radically begin venting atmosphere in an accident, that they will survive and have some mobility.
I appreciate.
What does Louis look like?
Louis is, I would say, like white main body, gray splotches. And then because Leda has this weird like situation with the fur colors, right? They get kind of crazy with this food. I forget the full explanation. But with like bright yellow stripes and green belly fur.
Amazing. This thing is definitely going to sell as a child's toy.
Yeah.
In our universe. It's going to be my first piece of merch in like 5 years. It's going to be
beautiful.
The hillbilly strikes again. Little Louis plushies and t-shirts.
Always pitching.
As a side note, James is running a Solaris Knights style game of Blood Bowl that he asked me to be a part of, and I'm going to be playing evil hillbilly.
Ooh.
He's like this. He's going to be this up and coming human businessman who's always like trying to get involved with everything that's going on, but he works for the Chaos Dwarves, so he's always like, you need slaves? Slaves? Anybody need slaves? We're here to acquire and sell slaves to you.
No scruples.
I am aiming to be the bad guy of the season. I'm also, because I'm the least experienced player, I expect I'm going to get demolished.
I mean, it looks like a fun game.
We'll see. We'll see. James said he's going to record it, so I guess we'll see what comes out. But
Nice.
Unanimous. Let's talk about the second part of funding for our noble ship. I do not remember your character's full name, but your name is Vandorn, and you go by the nickname Van-Vee.
Yes, for some reason when I was using the random name generator, a lot of V's came up, but his last name is Vantis. And that's what he goes.
Vantis.
Yeah, Vandorn, Van-Vee, Vantis.
So my recollection is he and his father are refugees. He left your mother for unknown reasons, a mother that you never met. You were moved to a world which you did not take terribly well to.
Right.
Midipile in the Alfred system. You set out for adventure after learning that your name had been changed, that your real last name was not Vantis, and that Vantis is your mother's maiden name.
It is. I don't know my mother's maiden name. It's my father's name, but my father remarried and took a new name.
Right. So you have a stepmother and step siblings back on Midipile, but
yes,
you have since moved away and made your way to Thord, which is a planet that is currently booming in population. So during the Scream, Thord had the highest population out of any planet in the sector by far. It had hundreds of millions of people on it. And since this lifting up of technology where planets are starting to contact each other again, because Thord is a cultural hub, other people move there. It's like how people go to college and then they move to a coast city that's large and metropolitan, or Houston, I guess, if you... what's a Midwest version? I can't leave them out. Colorado Springs? Do we count that? I feel like we do. Colorado Springs is huge, right?
Yeah, it's pretty big.
Because of the Air Force? Yeah. Anyway, so everybody moves to Thord. Thord's population gets completely out of control. It goes from hundreds of millions to 2 trillion in the course of 150 years. The planet could handle it because before the Scream, it was essentially Coruscant. Without being a governmental center, it was just a huge rock that had been turned into a massive city complex. What little water is left there has been protected for the, desalination, use, but they also have a unique culture that you got into, which was hyperboat racing.
Yeah, pod racing in boats.
It's like pod racing in boats, except it includes an element of dimension hopping and random, quantum fluctuations throwing you around. Weird stuff happens when 2 hyperboats get too close to each other. Probability of events happening begins to reverse, which can get quite dangerous when you get more than 2 boats together.
Like in a race.
You were a fairly established hyperboat mechanic who had a partner. You had just finished working on putting together your own boat when your partner mysteriously died and you were forced to leave the planet under those circumstances. Wherein you met the wealthy scion of a psychic family, and the 2 of you decided to go into his business, salvaging, together, and you bought a salvaging ship. You've made your way throughout the galaxy, wherein you found on the far side of Con 599 a black hole, a rogue planetoid which had not been scanned in a while. You found a Mandate era scout ship crashed onto the surface of the bone white powder. Its Mandate livery had it blend in, but of course you guys are sensor experts, even no matter how stealth this ship was, you did find it, wherein you found a quantum AI core, and you decided to wake it up. Kain, before we jump into Kain, I just want to confirm that that's everything that we share publicly so far with you, Dynamic.
Yeah, that's good.
I know there's more stuff going on with your family, but that we're going to address that immediately in play. So,
yeah, I got right happy. So yeah, that's good.
Kain, you were playing MINERVA, a ship who was out on their first mission after 100 years of service to a corporation. You decided to convert to Imago Dei, which doesn't, I mean, you aren't technically a Catholic if you don't want to be, but pretty much all of them are. You got assigned to a scout ship. You were fighting a mysterious enemy that I think the two of us can talk more about it, because there will be a scene about it. Probably not in the first episode, but maybe in the second episode. But the thing is, because of that, your backstory is very short. You were damaged during the battle. You were cut off from the rest of your fleet. You shut down, and then you woke up one day. These guys were like, "Hey, how's it going?" And you're like, "What are these primitives using 100-plus-year-old technology? Wait, my internal clock says it's been 700 years." Sorry, 600 years. You convinced them to get additional electronic systems installed in the ship so that you could control it directly, and then installed yourself into the heart of the ship. The three of you are now a salvaging crew that live together. Is that correct? Does that cover everything?
That is all correct.
Okay. We are gonna start in Midipile. If you have the Cress Wayside sector open, that's 0705 in the Alfred system. Midipile is it's a booming town right now. Salvaging business not so much, but lots of mining going on. It's tech level 4+, which means that they are beginning to recover like quantum technology, psionic technology. They're really moving up in the world. They have unique access to making new drive cores, but this also makes them a target for like corporate interference, military intervention. They're really trying to hold their own. I'm just going to tell you right now, Dunamis, that your stepmom is involved with the royal family.
Of course.
So the Midipilian government, the royal princess is at the top. And if you want to serve as a bureaucrat, you have to be adopted into the royal family. This is also a way to remove people who the royal princess, prince, the royal personage, if they find someone that they are being set up as a marriage candidate for, and they want to remove them from it, they appoint them to a position like an ambassadorialship so that they're adopted in the family, and then they can't marry them. So it's been used in the past as a way to get around, like, people are like, you should really marry this guy, princess or prince, and they're like, no, we're not going to make that happen. But it would be an insult to their family if I said no. So instead, ambassador.
Oh, what a shame. We can't anymore.
We can't marry because you're now my cousin legally.
Trying to think, what was the title I gave my dad? Now, was it ambassador? Oh man, that's funny.
So yeah, your dad like owns a mine, probably several mines, and he wants you to come home and settle down. But I would like to propose that we start play in Midipile with all of you having completed a repo job. You have found a paying job that appears to be, in all strict senses, legal. Someone has not paid on their shuttle. You have the capability to tractor and carry the shuttle with you. You take it back to the station, and you hand the control crystal for it, the thing that without it, the ship doesn't work, over to the client, who is, according to the law, the legal holder of the deed when payment is in arrears. So we'll start with you getting off the ship at the dock to go turn it in. The great news is you'll immediately be paid for that job, which means you'll start the game with some money.
Fantastic.
Does that sound good to everybody?
Yeah. I like it. The repeated stipulations on within the law or according to the law, minor concern, but I am ready.
Good.
And I can't wait to meet the owner of this shuttle that's going to be overjoyed with us repoing.
I sense something.
Next thing I want to discuss is how ship breaking contracts work. I sent you guys the 15-step correct way to salvage. Now, again, none of us are ship salvaging experts. I am not a ship salvaging expert. I did my best to make it interesting, but also expedite it because we don't want to micromanage a ship salvage. But just to run through it really quickly, you start by scanning the ship and noting abnormalities and hazards. So, like, if you're like, oh, we should go salvage it, you know, like we believe that a ship is salvageable, we're going to go over there. You have to start by like scanning it and being like, it's currently on fire, so probably there's someone in it and they need help. Second is all frequency contact in case the ship is under power or otherwise inhabited, because if you board a ship that is inhabited and you don't have permission, it's piracy, so they are within their right to shoot you in the face. Third, you have to cause a breach. You have to ventilate the ship, essentially. Like, you don't know what could be inside the ship. It's not safe for people to even in a pressure suit. You know, like if there was a toxic gas leak or something corrosive, you could die. So the safe procedure is you breach the ship, you ventilate it, you cause the least amount of damage, getting as much as you can out. If the ship is intact, the easy way to do that is just go to an airlock and say, hey, safely drain the whole ship. However, most ships that need to be salvaged are not in such a case where that will be easy. All crew members walk the deck, noting furniture, wiring, circuitry, electronics, marking other additional hazards, containers, and waste stuff. Then you remove all those objects, jettisoning them into safe and approved locations. So what this means is anything that you're not going to take home, you have to take it outside of the ship and fire it into the sun in a way that doesn't cause it to go through traffic lanes. Then you take out all the things of value, like furniture and wiring. After that, you walk the deck again, confirming that everything has been removed for processing. Then you consult the mechanical safety officer for a plan of action. Your mechanical safety officer is Van-Vee. So at that point, Van-Vee will do a walk of the ship and then come up with a plan to structurally break the ship down. The inside of ships, even spaceships, is a lot of empty space, right? We want to be able to walk around and move within the ships. But you could fold the ship down to like hull plates, all that stuff, small enough to fit inside your braking vessel, if it's all done carefully. That's the mechanical safety officer's job, is to figure out how to remove everything in a way that doesn't send anything flying off into space to kill someone, whether it's in 1 year or 10 million years, and to get all of the things that you are owed as the salvager into your ship. You then begin removing external components. Then you begin breaking the ship apart. So, once you've got all of the weapons and sensors off, you crack the ship open so that the stuff inside can be removed. You pull the hull plating off of the cracked part, and then the MSO begins the explosive part to begin removing anything that needs to be dealt with, like internal joinings. Do not load the spike core onto your ship while it's active. It has to be deradiated. Your ship will need to be deradiated and cleaned in the cargo bay. Then you have to place the spike drive inside of another container so it doesn't attune to your drive. And then you're done. That's really, really long. But we probably will only salvage 1 or 2 ships in the first season of like 10 episodes. So, any questions, comments, or concerns about that?
Makes
Gonna have to make this character a little more serious in Slayer Nights, so I can't just skip
My understanding
stuff.
from you, Van-Vee, was that you were not going to strictly follow the rules and that you were going to skip past them, which is exactly how it works.
Yeah, so I think the
Saves
first
time by skipping some of these unnecessary
the
safety
first,
procedures.
2 or 3 times, Van-Vee probably goes by the book, and then after his 5th time, he's like, "I got this."
I'm gonna be honest, guys. There are a lot of truckers that watch my shows, and I read articles about truckers, and it's literally like, if you follow all the procedures you're supposed to as a trucker, you won't make any money, you won't get anywhere on time, you're basically forced to do this. I looked into ship salvaging. It's okay in America. It's not great. It's okay. Almost all ship salvaging is done in the Pacific, and it is done dangerously, quickly, and real third-rate ass shit with people who don't know what they're doing. It would not surprise me if Van-Vee wanted to save a little time, which means a little cash, but just skipping some of this second walk the deck plan, why
Salt with myself again. I can't skip that one.
I would love to see it, Dunamis. I would love to see you breaking the rules. Established world. Bending them, maybe. Bending. Please,
Most important thing,
guest.
disable spike drive. All right, we're good to go.
That actually is the most important thing for sure.
I feel good about that.
So the thing is, the spike drive is the most valuable component on the ship by far. So if you can get that out intact, you definitely want to encase it inside of its containment box while it's deactivated, so it does not cause your ship to harmonize and bad things to happen. With that said, let's talk about how you guys want to handle doing jobs. I've played Stars Without Numbers a couple times. I should say I've run Stars Without Numbers a couple times. I've seen Stars Without Numbers games. Probably most famously from Swan Song, what they did was they compiled a list of possible jobs for the players and had the audience vote on which one they thought that the crew should take. I think they also did that for Shadow. I could get a list for all of you to look at if you're interested. The other thing to note is that you could take multiple jobs at one time, right? Like you could take a job to transport people if you're on the way to a system to salvage something, right? If you room your Capybara Maximus in its own room, you have 2 whole empty rooms you could transport passengers in. Your cargo bay is by necessity mostly empty because you're supposed to put most of a ship inside of it. You can put cargo in there if you're feeling a little tradery, you want to make some extra scratch on the side. But even just a delivery job where you're being paid a flat rate to transport something could help offset the cost of making the jump, the oxygen, the food.
All I'm picturing right now is the barotrauma screen where you just pick which site has the most jobs available.
I was just
That's where you're
thinking
going.
about that. I was like, we could take the passengers. We just got to make sure that we're careful about which way we attack the hammerhead for the bounty.
Yeah, exactly. The Firefly board game comes to mind for me for that, because there's literally part of the things that you can do is when you're at certain locations is look for work, right? And that's exactly it, right?
So, having the audience vote is one way to do it. To have them vote for what jobs you might take. I can present you with a list of jobs. You guys can, if you want to, it'd be a little unusual, but you could just present me with jobs. And the final option would be that we just go in a storyline mode where I just tell you what the job is, right? I'm just all right, this is the job you're going to take. We're on a narrative path. What interests you out of that? If you had to rank choice a vote, what's your number 1 and maybe your number 2?
I'll be difficult and say like I like a mix of that to a degree, right? Like I assume that there'll be like one or two jobs that are like the narrative focus, right? Like that these are like these are like the dangle in front of us, like, oh, if you this advances something if you do it, right? Like
I don't know, because I have this really famous example of this time where Connor Hughes and Cottontailed were outside of a lair and they saw the bones of a creature that they didn't think they could kill. Owlbear. And they were like, wow, that owlbear, it's a good thing we didn't encounter that. And then they heard something in the lair and they're like, huh. And Connor goes, we should go inside to investigate. And Cotton goes, if it killed and ate an owlbear, Connor, we should not go inside to investigate. And for me, Connor told me afterwards, he was like, oh, I thought because we went there, we were supposed to go inside. Like, you wouldn't have described it unless we were supposed to go inside. And I was like, I put a giant sign outside that said, here's a dead owlbear. I don't know how I could tell you anymore not to go inside. Like, that's a miscommunication with the game master.
That's like on one of the D&D groups I play with. We'll enter a room, the map gets revealed, they'll see the token of the enemy and say, yeah, we're gonna leave now, and just turn around and go back out. And I was like, what, you already know what it is, huh?
I like the idea of at least just like the concept of a job or the broad strokes of it being voted on by the audience.
Yeah.
So there's to try to help viewer engagement.
All right, I'm about to reveal my secret plan then. As some of you may know, I say a lot of things. I'm not always able to follow through, but one thing I did say was when I do live shows on Twitch, I wanted there to be audience involvement. So what if we do this halfway thing where the audience votes on jobs from an available pool that I have, and the one that the audience votes for, I will double the payout on.
Ooh.
That way
like
the
that.
payout is nice and rich and you're encouraged to take it, but probably the audience is definitely trying to fuck you over.
I like that.
I know the audience was, I think, kind to all three of us in Slayer's Nights. I think that'll continue. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah.
That had built-in a very narrow. First off, that was Patreon members only, not
That's
live
true.
audience.
That's true.
Yeah, I think
like
it probably make it easier to have like a short list of broad strokes for them to vote on.
Yeah.
So it's because if it's just like, hey, audience, come up with the ideas, then it'll be all over the place, off the wall, hard to manage.
No.
Especially if they ask for weird stuff.
I have some ideas for jobs, so I'm gonna give the audience. I'm going to probably tonight or tomorrow. I'm gonna post and be like, audience, here's a poll. Which of these jobs do you want to see the players do in episode 1?
Nice.
And it will increase the value of that job for them.
I like that idea because it doesn't force us into it. Plus, even if we do want to take it, we can still take others too and do the multiple path, which is, I think, what I wanted to try to load up on jobs.
Yeah, exactly. Get as many side quests as we can.
Exactly. Ignore the main quest and just do side quests.
That said, there are some things you guys have asked for that will not involve a job. You want to like search ruins and stuff. And while there will be jobs for that, they will not pay you well. They will pay you enough to get there and use your expertise, and probably it'll be like with Battletech with salvaging, the person who is sponsoring your expedition is going to take the majority of it home, and probably they're going to choose the best parts. If you want to set out, if you get rumors of a good salvage hit, of a good ruin that you want to explore, you're going to have to leave jobs behind and go off on your own. And that's the risk of the unknown, which I want to see. Players taking an incredible financial risk, because this game is going to be about a spreadsheet, about money, food, oxygen, heat. All those things are going to go up and down. And when they go down, any of those is bad.
It makes sense, right? Because Quentin and Van-Vee already took a risk to go find Minerva. There's a reason no one else
exactly.
find her. And
Yeah,
I don't know how you associate.
That's just it. You got to take the smart risk, right? Like this is a short deviation. This only costs us like 50K, right? We can do that.
50K?
I don't know what the
Holy cow.
money amounts are in
That's a
this
lot.
game.
That's a lot.
Honestly,
That's a lot. 50K is
a lot.
It's 1/20th of an entire spaceship, of
Oh, right,
which there are only
okay.
several thousand.
And you know,
one thing we didn't talk about that I think we need to, I believe in Stars Without Numbers Revised, I ask you when you make a skill check, I think it's that I have to tell you what the difficulty level is before you make it, and you can back down if you think it's too high.
I don't think it works. I keep going back to Solaris Knights because the three of us. I'm like, I don't think that would have changed any of the roles our three characters would have made.
Well, I know for a fact that in some episodes of Solaris Knights, I would tell you guys how hard a roll was, and you would be like, "Yep, I'm gonna keep on going."
that's
Yeah,
that's why we have
it's
edge.
happened. But I know that there's definitely examples where I was like, I'm going to wait till the end and see if I still have an edge. And there were other times where I was like, well, then I think we know how this roll's going. Like this.
Because at the end of the
It's
episode,
just fun to live on the
edge.
edge.
That's when you go for the most, the smartest lobster.
Yeah.
You're like, why not? I have the edge.
The couple battles where I had the rotary AC 5 there, like just
God.
fire it on all 6s every time. Like, why do
wouldn't
anything
you?
else? Who cares what the risk is?
Too funny.
Not this system, but I feel like I'll probably do that anyway, because none of you have played Stars Without Numbers to my knowledge, and if a check is a 14 and it's like only a complete master of their craft even could remotely make it, you should probably be able to look at it and be like, oh, only Usain Bolt could run this fast. Okay, I am not going to attempt this then.
Fair. Just remind me quick, the modifiers again on skills was if you have a -1 means you have no skill whatsoever, and it's
If
a
you have no
-2
skill,
penalty.
you take yes.
Okay. The 0 is actually you are skilled, but not
No, sorry, if you have
Zero is your train, so there's no penalty.
trained.
If you have a
Yes.
0, you have if you don't have a 0, you have a -1, not -2. If you have a 0 in the skill, it just means you can roll the skill with that. That
Nice.
also means that you're technically proficient in the skill. So if it makes sense for you to learn, like if you were like, I've got program 2. I've got program 0. What do I know about this programming language? I'd be like, okay, yeah, like it makes sense that you would know. You wouldn't even have to roll for it, right? If you didn't have it, I would be like, okay, roll your program in. You suck at it, so probably you're not.
I'm so glad the only +1 skill I have is talk.
Hey, it's a useful one.
It may end up being there, but in the programming example, it's like, all right, I like to talk. What can you tell me about talking?
Everything for me topped out at 0.
But that's where it's supposed to right now. You
Yeah,
will
yeah.
individualize your skills as you level. I think all of you will probably be going in.
Yeah, the only reason I got an extra talk is because I took diplomat because it lets me reroll ones, which I'm notoriously heavy at rolling. So
At least you're not Bandito. Bandito shit. Let's talk about experience points. There are several suggested ways to level, and there's a way I've done in the past, and then there's a new way that's technically an old way. I've been convinced of recently. So, probably the most basic form is you gain experience based on how much money you make, which go back to first or second edition D&D, I think, where the amount of copper pieces you brought back was your I'm thinking probably we're not going to take that one, which is why I started with it. Another way is you get a certain amount of points per episode. Show up, you're here, you get 200.
The episode survival bonus.
Yeah. Fantasy Flight Games tends to do this. I'm not the biggest fan. I mean, it does make XP. I'm not the biggest fan of it, especially as far as that numbers. Another way is that each of you can set goals for yourself. I think this is the way that I've done the, because it's borrowed from Burning Wheel to some extent. You would set goals. I would tell you how difficult those goals are and how much experience you might get towards them for attempting to chase them. Then there's the combined system. That is, you set a short-term, a long-term goal, both of them for yourself, and then you set a crew goal. If you work towards a goal, you get a certain amount of experience that will determine. Like, if your goal is very easy, the amount will be very low. Your long-term goal will give you a lot more experience. And if that one's very hard, completing it may give you a lot of experience all over. And by that I mean, if your long-term goal was find an ancient ruin and salvage it, by the time you've done that, it will probably be enough to give you an instant.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like, that is a very difficult but solidly satisfying long. Short-term goal, if you were a little cowardly, could be like, survive until the end of the episode. Or it could be like, get closer with my crewmates. And as long as you could show that either you'd done that or you worked towards it, you would get some or all of your experience.
Okay.
The final way is, I've been convinced that the ancient way of just letting the GM decide when the players level up may actually be the best way. If I wanted to, I could kill you at any moment. I could just be like, your ship explodes. You know what I mean? Like, the level of challenges you face are determined by me. The level of threats you face are determined by me. The experience you get, should it really just be based off of how present you are at any given moment? Or if you give the GM more of a hand in determining when level ups are, then you know when you get a level up that the challenge level is also rising as well. It is a bit more railroady, and it might not be popular, and I understand, and that's fine. I'm back and forth on this. I don't know about it, but what stands out for you guys? Because you're the ones that have to get the experience in the end. Do any of these interest you? Note that the goal-based ones can make it so that some players far and away level much faster than others.
I think the two that stood out the most for different reasons, XP on money made or XP on money spent, not that attractive to me. That seems to disincentivize
I agree.
The personal risks and stuff that we do that might cut into our profits, but is interesting or character centric. The goals thing is something that I'm used to in a lot of other systems. That disparity between characters you mentioned is definitely something I have observed before. I think it's very rewarding. I think it's a great way to get people invested and involved. But yeah, I mean, for example, we used that in a World of Darkness game, and we ended up changing it to an XP per episode completion because me and one other player were role playing more aggressively than the other two. So we were leveling up much faster, and it ended up creating enough of a disparity that it became a problem.
I mean, goal-based systems definitely, which not everyone. Some people are just looking hard around and cause chaos, which is perfectly fine. and we're all here for it. But it could mean that they fall behind, and no one likes to fall behind.
Yeah, I like the idea of the mix a little bit though, with the sort of like the goal-based stuff, sort of providing the narrative focus and like everybody getting to sort of contribute to like where they want to take things a little bit. But at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I don't see that being diametrically opposed to the idea that the GM gets to decide when that's enough to qualify for a level up. And that doesn't necessarily have to be as individualized as the goals themselves, right? Because presumably we're all going to be involved in like accomplishing those with each other reasonably often enough, right? Like, you know, I don't see them being super easily independent when we all have to be on the same ship and heading in the same direction most of the time. So yeah, like I like the idea of the goals because it's neat to sort of like define those a little bit, especially amongst ourselves and kind of know where we want to go. But
that's actually brings up something that I thought was interesting for the World of Darkness one. Part of the goals wasn't necessarily like, for easy ones are like, I want my character to accomplish the thing, but there was also sort of a narrative back and forth where like for example, one that I ran was, I want to be captured by the big bad.
Mm-hmm.
So if I survived that entire encounter and was taken alive, it gave the DM some ideas of stuff that I was trying to get into, things I thought might be interesting. And with all of those goals being, of course, you know, I put them on the character sheet and then they're pending approval to make sure that, you know, they stick and I don't just have wasted space on there. I thought that was another interesting way to open up that sort of communication back and forth.
So do you guys want to set your own goals, or the mix system also have a crew goal as well? Work towards that, everybody.
I like that. I think that helps reduce some of the disparity that may occur. If we decide on a common crew goal and any of us making progress on that benefits everybody, I think that's great.
I'm not too worried about an imbalance with just the three of us either. I mean, I know Kain, the last game you ran that I was a part of had 10, 11 players in it. So I think you started to see some imbalance there. But
that's the thing though, is that in Stars Without Numbers, I like how his camera falls.
Yeah.
I can still hear
it's
you.
Like, no.
It starts without numbers. It's truly incredible because at level 1, a single pistol round will kill you if you hit. But just a little bit more HP puts you outside of that. Now, of course, you know, you'll rarely be shot one time with one pistol. But you go from threat of imminent death to I can survive in an emergency pretty quickly. Now, of course, you're never going to be at the point, unless you're a pure warrior, which I don't think anybody is, where you're like, oh, I could get hit with a Hydra missile system and I could survive it. Like, that's probably not going to happen unless you guys get some powered armor, some cybernetics, and a very serious pool of health. But the first level and the new HP pool. That said, we do have to wait for Ludemann to return, but we can all start thinking of a short-term goal, a long-term goal, and collectively a crew. And I will set a difficulty for this, which will be how much you get if you work towards it, and then how much you get if you accomplish it. So with short-term goals, they should be short enough that you can accomplish them within the session. You'll only get experience if you accomplish a short-term. The long-term goal, you get some experience for working towards it, and a lot of experience for finishing it. We're using the word experience and numbers a lot, but it should be noted, you only need 3 experience to get to the next. I think it's 3, 3, 6, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24 for the difference between each level. So initially you'll level up very quickly, and then it will slow down. Does anyone have ship goal or a crew goal and or shorter long-term goals? Because based on those, it's a way of telling me this is what I want to see.
Well, I think we all know what Minerva's long-term goal is.
I mean, look, if you want to make recovering your ship your long-term goal, you're not going to accomplish that goal anytime soon. But when you do, you'll almost certainly level up.
And I like the idea
You
that
can
like
set a long-term goal that is like preparatory, right? Like acquire the funding necessary to start that expedition. Or, you know, you can micromanage it so that your long-term goal will put you in a position where, okay, I've accomplished one part. Now I need the next part to accomplish the overarching thing that I want to do. Because again, if your long-term goal is too hard, you will definitely fall behind in experience. Although, again, if your goal is recover your ship and get back inside of it, as long as you do something every session to drive towards that, you'll get some XP. You'll get 1 XP every session.
I mean, crew goal wise, right? Our ship is still technically in debt, so
A massive
paying
debt.
that off seems like I don't know how long term, short term, what we're looking at in terms of overall payout and jobs, but like that seems like an obvious goal.
We'll come back to the debt in a second, but if you want the crew goal to be reducing the debt, then that means that at the very least, the first episode will be about making money.
I can't remember what they're called exactly, but what are the like the path that lets you get from A to B safely? Those things.
Drill jumps.
Rudder
charts.
Yes. What if like I'm trying to think how measurable do you want this to be? Like what if between the three of us we know we want to travel a lot. There's a lot of remote places we want to go. We want to build a catalog of these charts. And that becomes something that's valuable to us, but we could also try, you know, every now and then sell one of them for a good profit, but we're building something that, you know, no one else may have, but at the same time, that's only good while it's current, right? So we have to keep it current.
That's very interesting. A lot of the places that we've discussed so far are places where the course rudders are traveled so often that it's simply like, when you arrive, people just transmit it and say, hey, you know, like there was a shift there. Let's just be clear, though. There are a number of systems on the system map that you have no information about because the course rudders to those locations have not been discovered.
Cool.
I think 0204, pretty much everything on the left side of the map is undiscovered. So if you were to assemble course rudderings to there, traffic either doesn't happen that often or is simply unknown. And very famously, systems 0600 and 0700 on the upper right-hand corner are not visited. It's actually illegal to visit them. Who knows what's there? Why are all the governments of this sector notoriously uncooperative and on the verge of war? Why do they all devote one or more warships to a patrol to stop people from jumping into those sectors?
I'm going to go ahead and say 0601 is Reapers.
0601 is a black hole, which is why I know those things. There's also nothing there. There's no refueling station. It's just a black hole, no station. So when you get there, you can't refuel, you can't get more oxygen. There's no space station, so if you have an emergency in your jump, if you get stuck there, you're screwed. Which is why the patrol fleet does not camp there. They camp in one of like 0602 or 0501. If you want a goal to be to assemble a catalog of rare course rudder, and just to be clear, like most course rudders are for like 1 or 2 jump. If you start assembling ones for like 3, 4, or 5 jumps, stuff that like bulk freighters could use, but is normally too risky to make the attempt. Like if you're like, hey, we got this 3 jump that we could sell you, any freighter captain worth their salt is going to be like, that's going to take 6 days off of my deliverable time. I will pay you money for that. Like straight up, pal. Here, just
Sweet.
Over the table. So if you want to have a goal to assemble a catalog of course rudders, that sounds like a good long-term goal.
Yeah, I was just trying to think of something that all 3 of our characters might be invested in or have like something that there'd be some.
Which sectors were the ones that are illegal to transit to?
600, 700.
Yeah, 600 and 700, the upper right-hand corner. Limerem and Calice.
Kain's long-term goal: go to 600 and then 700.
Why are they? Why won't the governments let us go there? We should go there and find out.
Right? You got to answer these questions.
So, I mean, to get around such a blockade, you need a core 3 ship, or sorry, drive level 3 ship, to jump far enough to get past them.
We know where one is.
Smells like season 2 stuff.
No, I like that. I like that idea of that course runners. The idea that, like, in general, like the ship is about more than just salvage. It's like exploration and that kind of stuff too. I like that.
So is that Van-Vee's personal goal, or is that the crew goal? Is assemble a catalog of course runners?
I was trying to think of a crew goal, but if we can think of another one, I'm happy to make that Van-Vee's too.
I mean, a crew goal to pay. Well, it's never going to be difficult. A crew goal to pay your like get more money for the ship. That would be a very easy goal. You will always get 1 XP for it. Like pretty much every session, as long as you make some money towards your bank account. That's it. That's well, it's money in the bank.
It also sounds like it's because it is so intrinsic to us not, to the organics on the ship not starving to death in the void, that we probably aren't going to earn much for that.
Right. Like I said, it's always going to be 1 experience. But it's also, it's an interesting starting goal to let you gain some experience before, like, assemble a catalog of course runners is very ambitious, and I don't know if a drive 1 ship is capable of doing. You know what I mean? Like, that is that you can't make. You literally cannot make. Well, see, that's the thing, is that most ships, you can up the jump on your ship if you are whatever the thing you are is. Starfare. If you're a Starfarer, you can make your ship pretend it's 1 level higher.
Yeah.
So that's why most ships, a level 1 or 2 course runner means nothing to them, because everybody's doing it. It's just safer for everyone to share their information. So when you start hitting level 3s, that that's not automatic. You can't just make those. But you also literally cannot make them. Like, you physically cannot traverse that course. Your drive level is not high enough to travel it and confirm that it is a successful drive jump.
If we do a second season, and if we do restore MINERVA, then we could make that a long-term crew goal to start mapping stuff out.
I got stuff for a second season if we get there. Let me just be really clear here.
Just thinking crew goal.
Way too much. I got way too much stuff. I'm out here. I'm like, all of these polities, they have the secret stuff in the background. Let me tell you about how the royal princess gets around from getting. I got stuff for this game, guys. If we're all still in the mood for a second season, I got second season level.
Mafia, clans. Oh, wait, sorry.
That's where we find out 0600 and 0700 are the clan homeworlds.
We'll log in. We'll log into
genetically engineered super warriors.
Sitting here.
What's a bachal?
How about for another idea for a crew goal being getting a notable increase in reputation to get higher quality contracts? It's like the jobs that we're doing now and the contacts and the negotiations we make are to try to get us to that next level of, okay, well, now you guys have a reputation. We'll pay you better and we'll give you different jobs. We'll give you bigger jobs.
I keep hearing that in Firefly. You have a reputation. Now you know he's solid. He is my wife's cousin.
People know you. I kill you. They know.
Now reputation.
That's pretty solid.
So maybe we could, maybe to make it specific, we could do jobs and negotiate with people in a way that we know we have succeeded at that crew goal when we meet a new contact for jobs that's in a league above the people that give us contracts now.
Interesting. I'm gonna say interesting to anything you say. Don't take what I just said as an up or down for that.
I mean, I like the rudder thing, but we're a Spike 1 drive, so
Yeah,
That's
so I
it's
guess
not appropriate for us to do yet.
when I first brought it up, I was thinking more of because if we go to any place that's not commonly visited, right, that instantly becomes. I mean, it's more dangerous for us to get there, but that becomes more valuable as a runner. So I was thinking more of like going remote places versus longer jumps initially.
I mean, and that would fit with the crew having already decided to jump into a black hole and find MINERVA.
Right.
So, just going, hey, that's what the star chart says was there. Let's see if it's still there. And if we don't blow
that's
up
a
on the
runner
way.
we hold on to and we
check.
don't sell because we don't want anyone else to find your ship.
Yeah.
But things like that is what I was initially thinking. I didn't even think about the combos or 2 jumps or 3 jumps. But I mean, I think the reputation thing makes sense though. Like that's one that's almost, to me, it's like a given, but I don't know how you measure that. Like as you progress, we want that reputation. I don't know how I'd apply it though, unless it comes up like naturally through dialogue.
I mean, it's
But
probably, it's going to be part of
I'm the one who makes that determination, though. I feel like that would be easy, right? I feel like, okay, I feel like you've reached a new reputation level. That's not the part you need to worry about.
There's an NPC who is now interested in us who wasn't previously.
We just went from 2 stars to 3 stars above our head.
Wait, that's
I mean, I think improving our overall reputation and like contacts and network makes sense, sort of, because for a lot of reasons, like both Van-Vee and Quentin are coming off of, some losses, right? Some like shaky ground to a certain degree. Like MINERVA is rebuilding. I think the idea of building up that reputation makes sense to me overall.
It gives us a good measurable completion too. When we get contacted by somebody that we know does not deal with it, we would have been beneath their notice, and they've contacted us, then we know like we've made a name for ourselves.
I'm good with that, because I mean, I think it works easier at the beginning versus when we don't have a lot of runners to go with. So,
and it gives us opportunity to try to make progress on that through utilizing different things, not just completing jobs, but how you negotiate with the people that are giving us the jobs, the concessions that we make. Whether it's like, hey, we'll take that lower rate on this job for the promise that you'll give us at least 2 more contracts, or any of that sort of stuff. Like that all also
negotiate a retainer. We can do.
You hear of any rumors, you tell us first. Give us that head start.
So there's more ways that we can make progress towards that instead of just, well, we made money. It's more than just feeding ourselves.
Before I start asking you about your personal goals, I want to know what name you guys would like, basically on the overlay, and like what default I would address your character as. Quentin, is it Van-Vee? Is it MINERVA? Or is it Van-Vee is just
Van-Vee's good.
Okay, Van-Vee. Do you go by Quentin? Do you go by Polk? Are you one of those guys that goes by your middle name,
it depends,
Alexander,
right? What's the setting for him, right? In this scenario, on a friendly level, Quentin for sure. But in his teaching capacity, it's, what is it, Professor Polk?
Professor Polk. Wow. Yikes.
Right? Like, it's too much.
Professor Polk the Fourth. He's a legacy for our institution.
I think he would only be like an assistant professor, though, really, with where he's at.
I think we said it that you're on, like, your family
has
said that you're on sabbatical to hide the fact that you've run away from teaching.
Yeah, basically. Exactly that.
MINERVA is MINERVA.
I mean, MINERVA would go by MINERVA unless the other two would have come up with some sort of quirky nickname for them to adapt to.
I think that'll happen naturally in session. I can't come up with that on the spot.
Exactly. That's situational.
Did we figure out if MINERVA had any specific pronoun identification? I was always under the idea that your character, that your AI was masculine, but that the body that you've chosen to, I don't want to say hide in, the body that you've chosen to interface with is female.
So I think what I decided to go with is MINERVA having been built to be a ship does not. So like in the casual between the crew is non-gendered. But for the assumed identity with the synth body has an assumed identity that is female. So off the ship when dealing with other people, whatever, but on the ship with the people who know that it's an AI, it's not gendered.
Let's talk about personal goals. Short term, which should be accomplished within the first session if possible, and long term.
I wrote down a few like high level long term goals when I was brainstorming. One of them was finding the like former high tech psionic academy that had previously existed in the sector.
That is an incredible and amazing goal, and it would eventually, by finding it, you would gain a new course runner in the process.
Perfect.
Because you'd have to find the planet it's located on. To jump to the system it's located on. All right. If that's the one you want to go with, I'm going to set that at a 6. Means that when you accomplish it, you'll get 6 experience.
Okay.
Every time you move towards accomplishing it, you'll get 1.
Awesome. Yeah, I like that.
I feel like long-term goals are so much easier than short-term.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Like, what can I do in one episode? Not die.
We're in Midipile, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, so one of Quentin's, I think, I don't know, motivations to leave is Lita is relatively isolated in terms of his culture and like his upbringing a little bit. He's gotten a lot of exposure as a result of its, I don't know, sort of rising importance on the sector stage. But yeah, I don't know. I think he wants to sort of investigate Midipile itself more so, find out what like, what am I going
There's
for here?
There's a lot going on Midipile. It's
yeah.
super metropolitan. Thord may be the cultural capital of all things. Midipile is a growing. That brings certain benefits to it.
Yeah, I think it's essentially like dovetailing with the crew goal of increasing our reputation. He wants to see what connections and contacts he can make to sort of send back or kind of take things back home, improve things for the Psionic Academy, right?
So is your goal make a new contact on Midipile, or is it make connections for the Psionic Academy, which are two?
Yeah. I don't know how to.
You have
let me
time.
think about it a little bit more.
Yeah,
let me think about it a little bit more.
Or you could just do both and only get experience for one. Like you don't have to only do things for experience, although it does help. Question is, what do you want to get paid in experience? And with that, I want to jump over to Kain, because you seem like maybe you've got a goal in mind.
Yeah.
So for the long term, the ultimate long term, of course, is to get back into the ship that MINERVA arrived here in. But I think the first...
What do you do once you have that ship? I've heard a lot about how you want to be in that ship, but what do you do once you have it?
I think something that would work really well narratively, and I did think about this, was as part of an agreement to be on the crew of the ship and to earn a portion of the earnings and everything and all that, was for the time and help to make the money and get the hardware required to restore that ship. MINERVA would continue to transport these two around to do work until they died.
See,
so sort of like if you help me, then I'm going to outlast you.
I will serve you until the end of your days, and then I'm going to go be free.
Yeah, it's because it's such an important thing to MINERVA.
It brings a real new meaning to best friends forever.
Yeah. If the airlock opens by mistake and you go out and die, well, then our friendship is over right then and
there. Okay, it's good to know that there is something beyond getting the ship. What is your current long-term goal? What do you want to work toward?
I think the current long-term goal is going to be to find the places and contacts that they need in order to acquire the hardware. Can't afford any of it yet, but where do I need for the harder to get parts that I'm going to need for replacement parts to repair the ship, to find the people who have them, and would figure out what I would need to do to acquire them from them.
Finding the people probably won't be that difficult. Learning how to acquire them will be difficult. Because it's you and not someone else, I'm going to set this as a lower difficulty than normal for reasons that will be made apparent.
Okay.
I'm going to set this at an 8. When you accomplish it, you get 8 experience. Let's just be clear on the wording. It's find the people and connections.
Find the people who have the parts I need and learn what I'll need to do to get them.
Okay. Amos, circle around and get to you. Got a short job, got a long job. What do you have for me?
I'd say shorter term, because it's probably more priority for Van-Vee, is continuing to learn more information about his mother and trying to locate her. I feel like finding any information about her in the first episode might be doable, seeing it's the same planet where my family is, besides her.
But your dad came from somewhere else, right? Like he fled here from another place. So assumably your mother is also from another place.
Right, and I don't know where that place is.
I see.
I
actually think this is a long-term goal. And my reasoning why is that it sounds like you're always going to be looking for this.
Yes.
And that way you can drip feed yourself XP every time by just saying, I'm looking for traces of my mother. You get XP. When you find her, big pile of XP.
That's fair. That's what I wasn't sure how to separate that from long term to short term, because like we're on the planet, the first one, like I can do something, but I ain't gonna find her, right? So
correct. But you could find information that will lead to her. So
yeah,
I mean, definitely feel like
if I get my dad drunk and he gives me a last name, progress.
I feel like you could probably set this as both your short and your long term goal, just in the way you word it.
Okay.
I think if the long-term goal is find
your mom,
your mother, and your short-term goal is find information on Midpile to set me on the trail of my mother, then you have 2 goals leading you in the same direction that you can both get XP on. That also makes sense for your character in a non-metagamey way.
That works for me.
Okay, so find your mother is difficulty 18.
Oh my god. Okay.
That's because I know where your mom's from. If you were so just for instance, if you were to find your mom today, you would instantly become level. That's how difficult.
That makes me think it's on either that 600 or 700 planet.
She 100% is in a place that you cannot currently reach. I'll just tell you that right now.
Mm-hmm.
Ship can't get you there, and your capabilities can't get you.
Your mother is the Ilcon.
Franklinosis. So your short term is find information
on Midpile.
Well, I mean, we use Midpile because that's the name of the planet, but actually it's the Alfred system. So probably you're not going to get information on Midpile unless you land, but more likely you'll talk to someone in over the radio, or you'll just land on a space station and talk to an information, or you'll talk to your family, maybe even ask your dad.
See about that.
Let's say we'll do it super loose. Find information to lead you on the trail for your mom. Doesn't even have to be in this system. You might jump out of the system and find information. We don't need to confine it to Midpile or Alfred.
I like it.
Now I get to wheel back around on Ludemann and Kain for their.
Yeah, I keep thinking of long-term things that it feels like.
I came up with a short term.
Yeah,
I'll go for it.
Experience something cultural with a shipmate.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
nice.
amazing.
All right. Ooh, okay.
Just to clarify,
did
can shipmate be capybara too?
That's what I was going to say. I did in chat originally say that one of my goals was going to be to improve your relationship with Lewis.
Okay, so your short-term goal for this episode is improve Minerva's relationship with Lewis.
Yeah, let's roll with it.
All right. Interesting.
But well, you know, the other thing that I was thinking about for short term, because this still feels long term to me, so I just don't know if it's like worth is the incident, you know, on my former ship. I still don't know much about it officially.
We're gonna
so
do
acquiring
a prequel episode about it though. That'll be dope as shit though.
Okay.
You don't know.
Right.
Don't farm that one for XP. We're gonna.
Okay.
I'm gonna farm
right.
that one for the audience's sorrow and tears.
All right, I will leave that one be.
Saying you want to experience something cultural brings about another point that I wanted to touch on in this GM prep, which is that when your ship travels, you spend a lot of time with yourselves and with each other, right? If you travel at regular speeds, going from one system to another is 6 days, and the only people you can talk to are each other. Now, assumably, if you take a couple trips to Thord, maybe you get a huge Netflix backlog, but we've lived through almost 3 years of a pandemic at this point. There's only so much fucking Netflix you can play and video game backlog you can get through, and you still are losing your goddamn mind at some point, right? A huge portion of your lives will be spent trapped in a metal casket talking to each other or doing things by yourselves. So I think it's important that we have scenes. It doesn't have to be like, let's play out all 6 days on every jump, but probably on every jump, I'm going to ask you, like, what are you doing or what are you doing as a crew? Like, is there a board game? Is there like a book club that you have? Does everybody just, you know, at least once a trip, like get together with Lewis and just like ride Lewis? Because Lewis is big enough and he has a saddle. You can physically ride him, right? Like that's the whole point, is that the Cowboys of Lita ride their Capybara Maximuses. Do you just like ride Lewis wildly through the ship with like the gravity plates on, and you're just like, "Howdy, bud!" You know, you do like a bucking capybara.
I don't know
Like,
how
is
high
that-
are the ceilings. Like, what's the?
You know,
That's funny.
where did you come from? Where are you going? Like, for instance, for Minerva, you might, I don't know what planet you're from, but probably you remember Earth or Terra in a way that probably most people, 99.9% of people never will. For Quentin, we've solidly established a lot about the cowboy culture of Lita. Like, how much of that do you share with other people? How much have you been influenced by the cosmopolitanness of space? And you're from Midipile, assumably, but you're actually from somewhere else, Van-Vee. But you love Thord. You've adopted it as essentially a second homeworld. Thord is insane. Thord is so big, it basically has multiple planets within it. Like, if you look at the ship designations that I have, like, the Fleet Yards has one designation, right? The ships that are made on Midipile have like a royal designation. For Thord, it's TAS, Thord Authorized Ships. Because there's no single government on Thord, and governments collapse every day. There's 2 trillion people. Like, the planet is at war with itself. Like, the lower levels are at the war with the higher levels. Like, people are shipping aid from like the 72nd ward to like 3rd ward, that sort of thing. Like, there's so much going on there, and you can't just be like, yes, I'm from, you know, X country on Thord, and then like 10 minutes later you're like, oh, well, they were conquered. All right, so I guess my ship's not flagged anymore. All of the countries on Thord have basically just agreed that like anything made on Thord gets the Thord authorized ship tag. As TAS. It's a madhouse there. And the crazy people like that, hyperboat race.
Yeah.
Like you. How much of that comes over? And you're also a sports fan, right? I invented an imaginary sport for this game.
Yeah.
I assume that maybe you like watch games and maybe try to talk to the
That's
rest
so
of the
good.
crew about it. I forget what it's called now, but
It was I keep wanting to say blitzball. That's not it.
but it's based somewhat on blitzball.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
I think
all of us Final Fantasy X fans are Blizzard.
I think
Blast Ball.
Blast Ball, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think MINERVA doesn't talk, and MINERVA doesn't give specifics. MINERVA doesn't want to reveal how old it is. Does not know how dangerous that is quite yet. Understands that there's a lot of things that are remembered. That is probably the value of some of that is not quite entirely in perspective yet. It does not want to self-make a target. So the stories that are shared are non-time specific. And for portions that are like, I haven't seen this particular thing since waking up from hibernation, I'll gloss over enough details to not quite illustrate how unusual that particular part of the experience would be to this crew. And probably would definitely be interested in learning different games. Would definitely watch Blast Ball.
Well, hold on. I don't know that we need to talk about all this right now because I actually want you to surprise each other.
Yeah.
Okay.
These sort of cultural touchstones, like what is important? What do you as a crew do together? Because I'm going to be honest, I've planned for a lot of this. I've mentioned the time that you spend in drive space. You also have to spend, 6 hours to move from one portion of space to another. Like, it takes a lot of time to do that. Then you've got salvaging work, which is going to take days of grunting at each other through spacesuits. You know what I mean? Like, you're just going to want to have something to talk about. And you can't just, because of the nature of it, you can't just be like, all right, I'm going to put the Blast Ball game on, right? Most Blast Ball games take place on Thord. It's like Battletech. It takes a long time for Comstar to disseminate the information jump by jump over to you. Can't just go put on your local game. They don't have college Blast Ball either because it's too dangerous.
Honestly, I figured there'd be a lot of like Van-Vee trying to explain to MINERVA who to bet on and why. And then like Minerva's just like,
my God,
that makes no sense
but
at
it's
all.
you, so it will all be wrong.
Yeah, well, there you go. Well,
Yeah,
just be,
I think
be
the notable
jail
thing to mention beforehand is that MINERVA has not disclosed its age and tries to be non-specific enough to not give too many indications of how old it is. Also has not provided much information about the ship you found it on.
With that said, though, they did find you on a Mandate era cruiser, so it's that is not a
there's some clue, but there's not a specific.
Right, you aren't like I'm 600 years old, but also for them it would not be a huge, like, one day you'll be like, let me tell you the truth, I'm 600 years old. They'll be like, yeah, we kind of always suspected that.
It
you tell us you're only 200 years old.
But speaking of when we found MINERVA, though, one thing that I did have a question on is, have we ever had like other crew members that we've like had on the ship? Did we have somebody with that? How smart is Louis? It says that he is ape level intelligence or like simian intelligence, right? Is what you had said.
Yeah.
And is Louis trained to take a watch on a spike drill?
Absolutely not. Louis is not capable of operating a spike drive.
It's a joke. No. I know the in the book
He's our gunner in combat.
You don't have to actually operate the ship. You're just basically there to like watch for like an emergency light.
Louis is not capable of performing that task.
Brings me back to my previous question, which is, did we have crew on the ship? Because one of the things it also said was that you generally need like, either a lot of drugs or three crew members. Yes. Yeah.
I again, this is just my imagining, is that you all getting this ship and finding MINERVA and coming back to Midipile to do a job all have happened in a very short amount of time.
Okay.
And probably
it was a shakedown run.
Van-Vee has been doing a lot of like
double shifts.
Meth analog to just stay awake constantly in the spike drives. You know what I mean?
It's like, all right, I did my 16. I'm going to go to sleep while you sit on the bridge for the next day. Just wake me up if the alarms go off.
I mean, when we put NATO pilots, military pilots in the air, we give them a meth analog. Let's just be real. Right. That's totally normal for fighter pilots in most developed countries. In Stars with Numbers, it's not weird either. Like, you go to the auto dock, you're just like, I need to be awake for a whole week, or the ship will crash. And the auto dock is just like, sure, here's some stay awake drugs. You will definitely need medical attention when you arrive in the homes. Like, when you come out of Spike Drive, you are gonna need a detox, buddy.
Van-Vee must be so happy that MINERVA is there to watch Spike Drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Spike drills.
So my idea of it is the two of you met on Thord. You then traveled to the shipyard system where you bought a... I don't think the ship is new in, like, it was made yesterday, but I think it's new in that no one has ever bought it, right? It's been sitting out in space. No, like, the person who was supposed to buy it backed out of the deal. They have a completed ship. You were able to get it for a little bit of a price reduction as a result. Your first job was, you know, you were desperate. You keep jumping to different systems, but no one wants you. You find MINERVA, you bring her back to Midapile and get her hooked in, and then you do this first job. So probably you've owned the ship for maybe like 2 months, know MINERVA for a couple of weeks.
Okay, cool.
Now probably the process of getting her plugged into the ship is recent, like a week or two ago. So, you know, your ship was made in the hull system on Kos by the Banana Fleet Shipyards, who basically control Hull. They're like a corporate, whatever you call it when a corporate Horrifying? No, I mean, that's what you call it. But your ship was refit on Midapile by the government. You basically sold the government on the idea of, we have this AI, it needs a body, and we have some technology from its ship that it is willing to negotiate with you. And they're like, okay, cool. We'll keep it all under the record. Here's your, you know, here's, I forget what they're called, your interface suit, your frame.
Armature.
Yeah, they issued you a state armature. They make you a fake ID. They give you they probably don't give you a pile of money, but instead they pay some of your loans down for the ship. And it's been about 2 weeks since then. You've done one other job that you're about to turn in. I would like to propose that your remaining debt is basically like 500,000 credits, which means that about half of your ship has been paid off. And then I would look at spreading that out on like 18% over 10 years, something like that, so that the number is quite high, not insane, but your day-to-day jobs won't pay it off, but a nice big hit could potentially.
Okay, so I have a tie to the government of Midapile.
Yes. They know that you are secretly a high-level AI, but your contract with them means that they're never going to reveal it. Like, all they have asked is that if you reveal it, you give them a heads up so that you can vote. You're eligible to hold office. Technically, as a non-human, you are not eligible to join the royal family. But other than that, oh, did I mention pay taxes? Because that's going to be important for you. And by the way, it's important for all of your governments except for the lead-ins, paying taxes. And technically, both of you are Midapillan citizens. You're both based out of there, so you both owe taxes. So if we arrive in the year 3201, we'll talk about how much 15% of everything that you've made so far will be owed by both of you.
Right.
Make sure not to spend all your money. Lead-ins don't worry about taxes. The Psionic Academy handles everything. And you are the Psionic Academy, so you don't need to pay tax.
That's my opening line in negotiations. I am the Psionic Academy.
Well, that brings up another interesting point I wanted to mention, is that docking bays are considered ambassadorial territory. So rather than subject you, like, some people want to dock their ship get fuel, food, repairs, but they don't want to get off the station and potentially subject themselves to criminal search, to warrants or anything. As a result, most space stations, they will sell you an ambassadorial license and then give you the dock for free. And so as long as you just stay in your dock, you don't get searched, nothing bad happens, and you can leave. And it's a great way to encourage people who have ships but maybe are a bit more shady to pay the station. Once you leave, however, you have entered the station rather than the dock, and normal passport procedures go. So that brings me to my final question. Where is the ship registered to?
Where did you two register the ship?
So, as I've mentioned, Leda is a tax haven because the citizens of Leda do not pay taxes to Leda.
And I feel like you probably have the family connections to make that registration happen.
The other thing to note is that there are almost no ships registered because it's an anti-technology planet. So
that's why it's an old mining rig.
If you register to Leda, you'll probably raise a few eyebrows. People will note your lead.
That could be interesting for getting noticed for jobs and whatnot.
That's true.
You're that one leadership.
I don't know how important running away from home is for you. If you register at Leda, they will definitely know where you are at all times.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't say right now. It doesn't feel like he's necessarily running away from home so much as he is running away from responsibility and routine, right? Like,
but as a citizen of Leda, none of that impacts your ability to register your ship on that planet.
That's fair.
And again, as a psionic, you are technically nobility on the planet and can issue yourself the license. Because again, there's no paperwork involved, right? Like, there's no taxes to pay. There's no official lead-in technology bureau. There's no like spaceport control. So you could just legally say that your ship is registered out of Leda.
They send a message to the official contact information. It's just me.
I want to speak with your superior.
I'm just picturing you having this conversation with yourself saying, I license this to myself during
this is that moment where the dock authority is like, I want to speak to your manager, and you just spin in the chair. Yes.
Hello.
Meanwhile, I'm in the background doing like a salvaging the 15 step process and going and check with safety officer. Check.
Now,
well, yes, I agree with myself.
Unsurprisingly, the majority of ships are registered out of Midapile or Coast because that's where most ships are made, or Thord because so many people live on Thord.
I mean, there is an advantage to being a little bit low profile in terms of like the exploration aspect that we're thinking about, right? Like you don't want to bring a bunch of sort of treasure hunters on our trail if they get wind that we're interested in something. I don't know.
That's it. When you make a spike jump, it's not like someone can follow you through that spike jump.
Okay.
Right? Like there's no like, we can backhack their calculations or something like. You don't even face a direction when you spike jump, right? You literally shoot into another dimension that you have no way to sensor follow. So if someone makes a spike jump, it's just like, oh, they're gone. Okay, where did they go? No fucking clue.
I mean, aside from like where
I like the idea of being registered to Leda. I think it makes a fun I think it makes a fun thing for Quentin. To be using his status, I'm the captain. I gave myself the ambassadorial license.
It's registered.
Oh yes, if you would like to deliver
00001.
If you'd like to pick up that cargo, it's in the docking bay with the leading ship in it. It's.
I feel like as a result, probably you will receive some jobs that you might not otherwise get as such a vessel. So. A normal docking procedure for you will be to buy an ambassadorial license for the station. In most civilized systems, you'll buy an ambassadorial license, and then, as a result, they will waive your docking fee, and it will be the same as if you bought a docking. But it's so that you can, get off of your ship. And also, interestingly, it means that if you have AAI, they are not subject to quantum ECM laws in your docking bay, so you won't instantly be shot and killed.
Excellent.
Is there any other questions? Oh, we should talk about your ship, what it looks like.
How about the name of the ship?
Well,
Oh,
yeah, we probably should do that. We only have 17 minutes. So yeah, do you guys have a name for the ship?
I think we came up with one in chat.
Yeah.
What was it?
The Golden Goose.
Golden Goose. All right, I like that. So, you are the LAS Golden Goose, the authorized system, the authorized ship Golden Goose. I was thinking we had mentioned a lot about Star Wars, and maybe like less logical. I have been playing a lot of Empyrean. I have to tell you, I've been salvaging in Empyrean, and what I like is having a control chair before a big window that also has like a down area, so you can get a very wide view from in the cockpit of what you're about to salvage. So I was wondering if maybe our idea was like a Corellian blockade runner from Star Wars, where instead of it having like a round hammerhead, was instead just like a giant, like almost like a welder's face mask, but fully transparent front area. And the salvaging arm comes up the top of the ship and like forward. So you look at whatever you're about to salvage, and like all of your equipment is controlled from the cockpit. And you're like, okay, I can clearly see what's going on. I can see, someone in a spacesuit going towards it. And then just like a lengthy, like big engine bulk at the back, like a radar dish on the top, not like non-uniform body that kind of ins and outs, but still has very nice lines. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. I was a Star Wars fan back when there were only 3 movies, and Corellian blockade runners, everyone was like, that's a cool looking ship. Nowadays, we got all these like triangular ships. Everything's triangular now.
Yeah, I mean, I like that. So
it
would be a long ship instead of tall for deck orientation.
Yes, it's a long ship because with your gravity plates, as long as you don't lose power, there should be no problem. Plus,
and I do already know that it is a war crime to turn up the gravity to kill people, so I will not be doing that.
It is, but again, that only matters if it's reported to somebody.
Yeah,
and
if it happens, it'll be an act of desperation.
The thing of war crimes is someone has to try you for them, and in our real world, that has become increasingly difficult. My God, was it 2015 where the like Bosnian general committed suicide in the middle of his war crime trial, and people were like, this is it, this is the event of a decade, I've never seen anything like this. And then I'm like, oh my God, you're so stupid, 2015, it's gonna get crazy from here. Like, you think that's the event of the decade? Forget about it. No one remembers that. No one. I tell people about that story. I'm like, I remember that. It was gonna be the story of the fucking decade, and people are like, yeah, lots happened since then, Arthur. And I'm like, my God,
just a little bit.
So, war crimes no longer what they used to be. That's everything on my list here. We've got goals, got a ship. What do you guys have any questions for me? Is there anything we haven't covered that you have concern?
So the organizations that MINERVA would know existed, does MINERVA know if any of those still exist?
You mean like the mandate?
Like the mandate or
Imago Dei.
Yeah, like or the Imago Dei. Or the anti-apocalypse folks.
Perimeter agency. So there are always rumors that the perimeter. On the other hand, the perimeter agency both quashes true rumors and spreads false rumors, right? They always want people to assume that a shadowy agency that has much more capability than it actually does will descend on any evildoers to instantly quash them, right? That's the image they want to send. But what they're actually doing, they don't want anyone to know about. So as a result, the perimeter agency is constantly mostly managing information control. So you'll definitely have heard that the perimeter agency still exists and is very real, but most of the people you've heard it from are Joe Rogan fans.
Okay. So it's sort of Minerva going, yeah, oh, absolutely, sure.
That said, you know, you come from a time where the perimeter agency acted openly, and their level of sophisticated population control and just like psionic temperance is good enough that you could probably just like look at an event and be like, the perimeter agency is real and keeping track of me, actually, because, you know, you're a potential world destroying threat. You are a threat to humanity. If you were to be unsealed, you are an extinction event.
I also think it's interesting with how old Minerva is, the perspective on like they were part of the mandate. So be having a generally like a positive predisposition towards them. Just, you know, it's sort of an interesting perspective. The last thing that Minerva remembers is that they were an integral part of the mandate.
So the mandate, there are rumors that there is a secret mandate facility. Again, you mostly get conspiracy theories of it. Where, oh, I saw it before it phased out. You know, it's invisible and it travels. Crazy stuff like that. But It's enough that people still think it exists. And of course, every time a ruin's found, it's almost certainly a mandate era facility. Imago Dei are thought of in the same way we would think of like satyrs, right? They've been fancifully fictionalized in the same way as King Arthur's knights or like Charlemagne's paladins, right? If you come out and say, I'm a member of the Imago Dei, it would literally be like Arthur returning and be like, I've come to bring peace to Britain again. Everyone would be like, what the fuck? That said, I don't know if your character is Catholic, but there is a pope on Thord. They have a holy see that is one of the flying cities. I
did think it would be an interesting goal for Minerva to go meet with
the Pope.
The sea. Yeah, okay. To go at least meet with the sea. Okay. Minerva is a Catholic AI.
Okay. It's a long trip back to Thord, but you could definitely meet with Papa, the Holy. That said, Catholicism 600 years in the future is somewhat different than what you were.
Yeah. So I guess the other question is then, having discovered the ship that Minerva's on, do the other two have any idea of the affiliation of that kind of ship? Do they already know that Minerva is Imago Dei?
It definitely, they probably don't know that you're Imago Dei. Your ship, it's an interesting question.
Other than it being like basically an archaeotech find, do they know anything other than this is old as shit?
So the Imago Dei, I don't believe they were mandatory, but they were tolerated as like a paramilitary organization. So I don't know that we have a real technical example. You know what I mean? They're like fighting super missionaries that were, I mean, they're an NGO for sure. Like they didn't belong to the government, but they were also recognized as humanitarian peacekeepers. They're like an armed version of Doctors Without Borders.
Yeah.
So probably just from a quick look at the ship's registration and serial number, they would know that the ship is hundreds of years old just from its last flagging, and it came from some, like, they would be like, oh, like the sector that they're like, not even the planet or system. It's not from Wayside Cress Wayside, sorry. The sector that we're in. It's from another sector. Like, we don't even know what sector this is. We just know it's not the one we have lived our entire lives in. Do they know it's registered to the Imago Dei? Probably they don't have any way to like read the identification. You know what
Okay.
I mean? Like, the ship probably has like IMD forward tag in front of it, IMDS or something, and they would be like, I don't know what that means.
Okay.
It's like when you're looking up serial numbers and you're used to like physical ones, and all of a sudden you run into a virtual machine serial number and you're like, what the fuck is that?
Well, I imagine if I said SSBN, it wouldn't mean anything except to people who are like, you mean ballistic submarine, nuclear ballistic submarine. And you'd be like, yes, you have studied Wikipedia and or naval history and know what I mean. But for most people, if I said SSBN, they'd be like, I don't know, is that like a website or something? You know what I mean? To them, IMDS has no meaning. They have no context for what it is. But if they ever found some mandate level architecture and they were like, oh, look at that, the code for Imago Dei is IMDS, you would be
what a
found out.
coincidence.
Yeah,
For now.
if somebody decided to hobby time for some ancient AI Arthurian legend lore.
Mhm.
So I think that they know that your ship is old and that it's quite old. They don't know where it came from, and they don't know what it's. All they
Okay.
know is that its name is MINERVA. Probably because it's painted on the side of the ship.
All right.
Yeah, what's the first thing you said when you woke up? I mean, that's my question.
I'm
Wait,
hungry.
No, don't say it. We can do this as a prequel
Yeah,
episode.
yeah. Well, we'll do it.
Yeah,
as a
we
prequel
will.
thing.
We will.
That'll be the prequel episode where
Just saying, it's
everyone's
hanging
present.
there.
We can do that for like a special holiday episode. Holiday.
Okay.
What's a good like February? It's one of my favorite holidays. Not many holidays to a dude that gets totally wrecked. Any other questions, comments, concerns, things you want to talk to each other about? Last second plans.
How would I know that being a member of the crew, Quentin wants to be referred to as Quentin in that sort of casual crew way. How does Van-Vee want to be addressed casually, and how does Van-Vee want to be addressed not casually?
So Van-Vee was going by Vandorn for most of his life until he kind of dropped out of the whole school formal education system and started going more into like scrapping, teching, building. And he felt like he belonged better to those folks going by Van-Vee. And so he just started using that name, and then he started gambling under that name. And now he just kind of fully goes by Van-Vee. So his official name, like if he ever like, and maybe in this first episode when he goes and meets his father again or something like that, he'd probably use Vandorn. But in almost every other situation, he'd rather be known as Van-Vee for separation.
What about VV?
My mechanic, V squared.
Ooh, yikes. No, not in love with that one. So I have homework here. Develop the first 3 or 4 jobs, and then let the audience vote on which one will get a double payment. And then I need to also set up your payment schedule, which will involve some mortgage calculators for $500,000 at 10 years, which will more correctly be 9 years and 9 months at 18%. We'll see what your monthlies are and what you pay down to keep from sinking you.
We should refinance.
I've got my spreadsheet already started.
Okay.
I'm ready
So-
to take this info in.
Some other things you're going to want to know are...
You're going to be the admin guy.
I think we
You are
have
the captain.
Yes,
we
that's
have
fair.
the whatever this website is called that has the ship information on it.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
You need to know how many person days of food and oxygen you have, because you have to upkeep that. Then every spike jump costs 500. It doesn't matter how far you go on a spike jump, just charging the drive costs 500, which is why having a very big drive is highly efficient. Because whether you move one space or 6, it's still going to cost. Well, you could technically move 7 if you're really, really incredibly good and lucky.
And while Minerva might volunteer to prepare food, Minerva is not going to waste any of those resources.
Do you bleed milk? You know I'm going to shout that at you the first time you get shot. Some extra things I believe I've mentioned at least once, but I want to make sure is that this is not the only sector of the galaxy that there are 2 jump gates. One of them is essentially inaccessible. It's in the Khalit system, which is 0309. It only works from the other side.
Oh.
They send their prisoners over. The prisoners are essentially abandoned in zero-G suits, and they have formed their own society. So many millions of prisoners have been sent over that they've essentially taken over all of the planet.
That's amazing and terrifying.
So Space Australia.
Their job... their imprisonment lasts until they get it working from this side.
Oh.
So they have a huge incentive to get it working. As a result...
Why do they want it to work?
I mean...
Presumably have people they left behind on the other side of the jump gate.
I'm not liking how there's a planet in 0309 named Bad.
As a result of that, finish a jump gate requires psionic from someone with, usually many people with metapsionics and teleportation discipline. So there have always been rumors that the prisoners of this empire have been kidnapping psychics from across Cress Wayside and smuggling them here to put them to work. Those rumors have never been found to be strictly true yet, if only because ships that go to the Khalite system tend to not come back.
So, just so we're clear, I have both of those power sets.
You are a prime candidate to charge a jump gate with your
Luckily,
friends.
our ship wasn't registered till... Oh, wait.
There is also a working jump gate in 0608 in the Erebo system. It is controlled on the other side by a massive trade conglomeration. They do not let ships that are not registered to them come through it, but they send trade ships over all the time. So they rarely allow information or people to slip out of their grasp. But if you swear allegiance to them and you prove yourself, you can slip into another sector. A whole different set of opportunities. And just beware, those are 2 major Season 2 plus level events. One defunct jump gate and one very working one that is relatively inexpensive.
Now I feel like I have to ask, what is wrong with Cress Wayside that we have 2 gates that could come into us, but we can't really get out? Everyone's dumping their crap on our...
Well, like I said,
sector.
Cress Wayside has a unusually high number of planets in it. Also has 2 jump gates, which is incredible. Like, 2 jump gates is statistically anomalous. Having 1 jump gate is truly incredible. So, just some thoughts in case. I really wanted to forewarn you about the psychic thing, because that's going to be a real background thing, is people worried that, like, psionics are going to get kidnapped. Like, you know, psionics in this sector are aware of it, but no one believes that it's real. But some psionics, they've got plenty of money.
It's definitely a rumor I've heard.
Yeah, it's like, psionics take it very seriously, right? Like, it's just a rumor, but they're well paid upper middle class to lower upper class. they can afford usually to buy themselves a bodyguard or two to just, like a Pinkerton to provide personal security and make sure no one's looking into them and that sort of thing. It's just something to be aware of, just in case you're... Because you have 2 of the necessary disciplines needed to get the... Now, just to be clear, as far as you know, the jump gate in Kalite is nowhere near ready to be done.
Right.
But the psionic part can be done at any time. So if they just kidnap someone now... I mean, if they do kidnap someone, you just, you got to get that energy working.
Right.
So I guess on that
For
note,
you, I should mention, Minerva, for you... Them having jump gates is like, oh, cute. They managed to get something we had everywhere. Where like you're like, oh, you only have 2.
that's funny.
Oh my! You've discovered a bicycle with a missing wheel.
We can fix it. Oh, look, your bicycles have square wheels. Does Quentin hide his psychicness at all? Like not amongst us, but like in public or like if anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I assume it's not something he reveals by default, right? He doesn't have, an incentive to do so, like unless it comes up. But I also, I mean, it kind of depends, right?
It's not like there's a glowing purple aura around you.
Yeah, exactly. But like a lot of what we're going to do comes with like introductions, right? Like and our registration and other things. So I think more often than not, folks will be aware of it that we're directly like, talking to. But like once we're sort of on the job, right? More incognito, I'd say. Yeah.
The ship is a lead and registered ship. Somebody involved in that process is psychic. So is it you? Do you have a sponsor? If it's not you, you at least know one that they might want to get their hands on.
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
By extension, that becomes a thing for all of us.
Right.
So I guess that's one final thing I wanted to just I explain this because it matters to his character as a psychic. But the reason that the Psionic Academy is tolerated is because they essentially let psychics go back to their home afterwards. So there is always this threat of a planet just being like, we are going to train psionic assassins that can teleport, slice your head off, teleport back. They'll never be seen by anybody. They can read everyone's mind. Like if they just have tea in a room near you, they can read your mind. Right? That's bad. And no one wants that. The Psionic Academy trains people, and then they allow them to go home as long as they send a portion of the income they make as a psychic back home to help pay the Academy's upkeep. And all of the planets allow this to happen because it's better than everyone hoarding their own psionics and not having the information on how to train them. Psionics going insane and murdering thousands to millions of people, and then your enemy could have a psionic assassin, which is again hugely bad for psionics, right? It's something that the Psionic Academy always tries to downplay, like just like the fears that you could be kidnapped and taken to Kalite, right? That's a fear psionics have. The general populace, knowing that people that walk among them could secretly be reading their minds or grab them, teleport them into deep space, let them go and teleport back, and now you're floating forever, dying for the last second, just like, oh my god, what just happened? Like a serial killer psionic would be undetectable. So the Psionic Authority does a lot of goodwill in public to be like, there's no such thing as psionic assassins, and all the governments get together and they're like, that's right, we're all one big happy family. No one is training psionic assassins. That's Thor media stuff. It's on Netflix.
Movies.
Yeah, it's movies. It's not real. But definitely Quentin is probably.
He's probably not the operative.
That's our time. Closing thoughts.
Get it.
I'm looking forward to Minerva learning about current culture and customs.
juggle geese.
We juggle geese nuts. Oh, God.
That's a Firefly reference.
That's a good reference. It is. Yeah.
I was a fry cook. I was fired from a fry cook position. All right. We'll be back Monday at 8 p.m. live on Twitch then. I hope to have something like a functional overlay.
How's our
wait.
I don't know if I should ask this or not, but our character art, how's that looking?
I have no idea. Rad will let us know when.
Okay. Cool.
Thing about Radosaurus art, I hope he doesn't take this negative. He's taken several things I've said in a shitty way, but I've said them shittily, mostly about GFA. This one, though, Rad will work up to the last second perfect. Not meant to be an insult. It's just that he's a guy that if I give him a deadline, he'll turn it in at the deadline, which drives me insane, but...
So he uses all the time that he has.
Yes, he uses every second that he has. So
okay.
If we have the art, I'll probably be scrambling to get it on. If not, there's a lot going on in his neck of the woods right now. Power outages and such.
Legit.
Holidays, sick kids, I think. So, we'll see. If the art's ready, it'll be ready. If it's not, it's not. I guess you could ask him if he has an update. You could ask him directly. He doesn't like it when I ask him things about art because he thinks I don't have any taste. He's just like, how do you think this looks? And I'm like, I think it looks good. And he goes, fuck you. You don't know anything about art. I'm going to somebody else.
Oh my God, that's beautiful.
That's my relationship with artists, guys. That's just...
I'm not sure if I should be the one to ask because the only thing he said he learned from our session -1 was I don't know what a bowcaster is. So.
That was a great comment.
Unforgivable.
He's a huge Star Wars fan, though, so
That's really funny.
I can't wait to see Quentin in sweatpants, though. That's what I'm.
My favorite quirk.
Casual Quentin.
Maybe his loungewear.
Exactly.
For +1.
We're mid jump. Why would he dress up for mid jump?
That's right.
Yeah, these WFAs work from home. Just why bother? Just the suit and tie.
Look, he's got to meditate as a regular part of his day. That's just like built into his schedule. Coziness is important.
You have to maintain your mind from deteriorating and murdering everyone around you.
Yeah, exactly. Y'all don't want that.
Very normal. All right, I'm hitting stop recording right now. Audience, the next episode will be a real episode.